So, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We are in the 50th anniversary of Vijay Diwas celebrations. So, sir, our topic of discussion with you is this entire issue of two-pronged war. In 71 war, we had the Eastern and the Western Front that had opened up, and India fought on both the sides and had remarkable success. And again today we are looking at a scenario where we have a two-pronged war situation, where China is on one side getting belligerent, Pakistan as usual is showing its aggressive side. So how do we see this situation? The difference between 71 war and this time?
Yeah, Shashwat, thank you very much for asking me to comment on the two-front war and the current strategy, where today the Chinese are sitting on our borders, looking down from the northern front. In 1971, India was just about 24 years after independence, and it had already seen, two wars from Pakistan and one war from China. That was the fourth war India was seeing, and between the first and the second, that is, two wars were fought, one by Pakistan initially on getting our independence, and that is partition, and Second World War was thrust upon us by the Chinese in 1962. So immediately after that, when 65 war happened, when Pakistan again attacked us in Kashmir and in other sectors, then the whole war was, on the entire Western Front. The Pakistan's impression at that time was that since India has just about fought a war with China in 1962, they would be down and out, and that is the advantage that Pakistan took to attack India. So that, in a way, was not in time a two-front war, but within 3 years we were attacked from two sides. One is from China in the north, and then 3 years later by Pakistan in the west. But what happened in 1971 was that India was now experienced in fighting both wars, in the northern front as also in the western front. But in 1971, the two-front war, and not front with two different nations, was certainly fought. It was one nation, that is Pakistan, which had East Pakistan in the east, that is today's Bangladesh, and West Pakistan, which opened up and attacked India on 3rd of December 1971 in the evening. 50 saber jets came and attacked India in the 11 airfields. That is when Bangladesh, which was not yet there as liberated Bangladesh, but East Pakistan struggling from the clutches of West Pakistan, because the kind of atrocities which were being committed on the Bengalis in eastern Pakistan had huge amount of exodus of refugees coming in. And they sought help from India, but Indians were completely helpless, with 10 million refugees coming onto Indian side and asking for help. Indira Gandhi went all over asking for help, but help actually came from nowhere. In fact, it was the other way around, that the Americans came and helped Pakistan and China, and they gave them moral support, and also they gave them some material support, and at some point did posturing, as you may understand. So 1971 war was that India fought on two fronts with one nation, that is Pakistan. But the global dynamics were also there, that largely the US-led Western nations and NATO were completely in favor of Pakistan. And also China was in favor of the entire bloc, which goes, in a manner towards helping the cause of Pakistanis and also Americans, because they were all put together. Today, the situation is no different, but the difference is that today there is one front war where the Chinese have actually come and occupied certain areas. We have given a befitting reply, but they are sitting on our borders. Because they're sitting on our borders, and everybody understands China and Pakistan, they call themselves iron friends, but they are certainly working hand in glove to attack India in a manner that would be attack on two fronts by two nations. So that is the only difference. But India has fought on two fronts earlier, 1971 war.
But this time the power of balance, do you think, is a little different?
Of course.
considering that China is a much more powerful and aggressive adversary?
I would not call it military in the power of, when you talk about the equations. Yes, force on force, the economy wise, China is certainly a bigger power, bigger country. On the Indian borders, I think certain forces which they have invested in are actually meant for fighting their battles in the east towards Taiwan and towards Vietnam and towards the oceans. The forces that they have invested in are such that once they come to the Indian borders, Chinese soldiers are not capable and kitted for fighting a hand-to-hand fight as is India capable of fighting on the mountains. So I would say that the power of the balance of power is neither on their side nor on our side, but I think the experience and the strength of the Indian army is more than adequate to handle not only China, but in case Pakistan also opens up in a manner that they are not capable of opening up with a conventional strength because of the weaknesses, inherent weaknesses. They would certainly use terrorists and proxy war to begin with, and looking for an opportunity, finding if India is on a back foot, only then they would open up conventionally. Otherwise, Pakistan is going to really, really calculate how the future would pan out for Pakistan.
Considering the stretching of the resources, like our Air Force squadrons are still not fully numbers, and we have our Navy also modernization is still happening. So, do you think that our resources will be completely stretched if there is a
So,
two-pronged war?
Shant, you only fight war with what you have. And I think if you calculate with what we have, we can certainly defend our borders.
Do we also see a risk of nuclear escalation?
When countries have a nuclear bomb, you don't expect them to use, because that is only to make sure that they are deterrent not to fight a war. But we've had an experience 70 years back, Second World War. There was a use of nuclear bomb by the Americans in 1945. So therefore, I would not say the nuclear bomb will never be used. It was used in the past, and if it gets used now, there are far too many countries armed with a nuclear bomb. I think it will be devastation. It will killing the whole world together in one go. Not advisable, very risky for humanity, and therefore, I think if leaders are wise enough, they will only use it for deterrence and not for war fighting.
So 50 years have passed since the 1971 war. How do we see the future? Do we see more collaboration of world powers coming together?
There will be certain quarters which will come together, and we can see that the Quad, that is the US, Japanese, and the Australians, have actually come in together with concern with what China is doing to the world, and in specific terms to India. And therefore, the exercises were held in Bay of Bengal in Arabian Sea, where all the navies of these four countries, which we call Quad, came together. And I suppose it is not only coming together for an exercise. I think number of protocols and agreements have also been put in place where these countries will come in together should China become belligerent in opening up borders against Indian northern borders, or also towards the east. And in any case, they will come if there are two nations coming together, such as China and Pakistan. Certainly, you would find certain powers will come, and they would not only participate, but also ensure that this kind of collusion does not happen again. I think they will have to prove it to the world that this kind of ill will designed by one country such as China cannot be allowed to carry on to destroy the world and favor only one nation and not allow the rest of the world to be in peace. After all, the whole world is affected by COVID, which was also triggered off from China. And if you attribute this to their overall strategy, I think they felt that the whole world would be struggling with COVID, and that is the right opportune moment they would attack the world. I think the world has understood, and therefore also world is extremely angry against China. They would come together with more conviction. they would come together with more aggression against China.
Sir, you are the officer from the elite Marathas, and we know the military history of the Marathas. One of the important battles fought in the 71 war was the Battle of Hilli. So, how do you recollect that war and the prowess of Maratha Light Infantry?
Thank you very much for asking me this question. I'm very proud to belong to the Maratha Light Infantry. I was also Colonel of the Maratha Light Infantry till about a year and a half back. Having said that, Maratha Light Infantry is a very special regiment. The British called it Maratha Light Infantry as a title given to them because they could operate behind the enemy lines and they could, go from the flanks and attack in silent attack and surprise the enemy. In 1971 war, my battalion, 22 Maratha Light Infantry, fought the Battle of Hilli. While there were other units also of the brigade which fought very, very gallantly, but I think my battalion was specially used to go from a flank and carry out a silent attack and surprise the enemy. And I think that is where I have been told when I got commissioned, all the company commanders of my battalion had fought 1971 war. And right from day one of my being a second lieutenant, I've been hearing how every individual soldier belonging to a community, whether Marathas or Muslims, how the officers led them to fight battles, close quarter battles, how they made sure that they do not get their troops entangled where we suffer more casualties, because it is very important that you bring more casualty onto the enemy and save your own, because the kill ratio is extremely important to a good strategician and to a good tactician. And I think our officers were very cunning, very smart, professionally very, very good, where they were conscious that they have to bring in a favorable kill ratio. And I think the kill ratio of the battalion that I belong to, 22 Maratha LI, was completely in favor of us, bringing a huge amount of casualty and capture of certain areas like Bada Changram, where, of course, the surprise was lost. And they had to literally go for a fight which was more conventional in nature. Having said that, this unit did whatever it stood for, being a light infantry, and I'm very proud of my unit. I'm sure once you talk to the veterans of my unit, you would understand what they stood for. Light infantry is something which moves faster than light sometimes, as I say, because it is light infantry. It is not halka, it is the speed of the light. And it goes into the enemy territory without even they understanding what happened. It creates a lot of chaos, brought in a lot of damage and destruction. And I think the surrender ceremony of 1971, and today is Vijay Diwas, where 93,000 troops literally surrendered at the feet of the Indian Army. My unit was one of them who's been taking surrenders. Brigadier Swaminathan today is retired, but he was a commanding officer at that time. Our unit has got a couple of pictures where our proud commanding officer of 22 Maratha Light Infantry, then Colonel V.R. Swaminathan, is taking surrenders of their brigadiers and their colonels, and those pictures would be available to you. If you speak to them, you would understand how proud a movement it was by capturing certain areas, clearing certain areas, and advance towards Dhaka. Also, other battalions of the regiment were also there. 5 Maratha was there, 1st Maratha was there, 2nd Para was there, which is today's Special Forces, which actually Para dropped at Pongli Bridge, that is Tangel, which is a world famous operation, and 1st Marathas actually linked up with them. So, this was all the tradition of the regiment, which proved its mettle in 1971 war, and the results are in front of us. And today we celebrate Vijay Diwas because of those veterans who were gallant, who actually charged into the defenses of the enemy and captured Dhaka. It was the shortest and the swiftest war. It was literally a light infantry war, and I'm very proud to be associated with this.